And thou, Melkor, shalt see that no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me, nor can any alter the music in my despite. For he that attempteth this shall prove but mine instrument in the devising of things more wonderful, which he himself hath not imagined. Hey everyone, Yoyston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. I also think I've used that quote before, to be fair, in another video, but it works so well for this one, which we'll get into here in a bit. Today we will be discussing why Melkor and Melkor alone rebelled against Eru Ilúvatar, and why no other Valar joined him. Some sources and related videos for today's video will be in the description and cards, my friends. Thank you all so much for joining me. Let's begin our tale. To start this off, let's take a quick examination of the personalities of the other Valar. Now, I've done another video quite a few years ago on their powers, lore, history, all of that. I'll link in the cards. But for this one in particular, we're going to just look at their personalities to see if these Valar would align with Melkor and his goals, personality at all, or not. This is to say nothing of the other Ainur, who did not become Valar, did not go to Middle-earth, nor is it to say anything of the Maiar of Middle-earth, some of which, such as Sauron, kind of Saruman, the Balrogs that did join him. For this, let's look purely at the Valar. Of course, we have Manwë, Melkor's brother, to start off. He is the Elder King, the King of the Valar, and besides Mandos as well, knew best the will of Eru to carry that out in the world. I would say there's no lineup here between their personalities. In fact, if Manwë best knew of the Valar, Eru's plans and will, he wouldn't want to dominate the world. So we can put him out of our minds. Of course, there's his wife, Varda. Same sort of thing. She stayed very good in many ways, challenged Melkor, challenged his evils, would never join. Ulmo, he is also quite a good guy, Lord of the Seas. He also opposed Melkor in so many ways during the events of the Silmarillion. There's no way he probably would have ever joined him. Aule the Smith, master of crafts and the world in terms of its physical manifestations, and the creator of the dwarves. His Maiar were the ones that did turn to Melkor's side, or at least began to follow more or less some of his teachings. We'll come back to him because, honestly, of the Valar, Aule is the closest to Melkor, that's for sure. Orome, he hunted evil, so there's nothing there. Mandos, while the Lord of the Dead, did not really lend himself much to any of Melkor's evils. In fact, he seems to in many ways have less agency and free will than even the other Valar, something we'll get into more in a bit. There's Lorien, the master of dreams and so forth. No, he wouldn't have turned evil. Tolkas, his purpose was to combat evil, but if that ever really became ingrained in his nature too much, I suppose he could have fallen, but I don't think so. It's not really within him to do that. He is a champion against evil. He probably wouldn't fall to it, no matter how much evil he fought. There's Yavanna, the Queen of the Earth, and Aule's wife. She wouldn't have. She had so much sympathy and pity for the living world and all of its nature. She would not have turned. Nienna, the Lady of Pity, definitely not. She could not have done evil, even if she tried. Este the Gentle. I mean, do I have to say more? Este the Gentle. Vare the Weaver. And this is the wife of Mandos. She was, again, a little bit less in terms of the agency. She weaved much of the stories of Arda, we'll say. Vanna, the Ever Young, she just wouldn't have, probably too innocent. And then Nessa, also too innocent. So there we have it. Really, of the Valar, there's really one that might have joined. So to look at our premise, why didn't any of the other Valar join Morgoth? Well, one might have, but here's the thing. In the creation of the dwarves, we see all of Aule's personality. We see that he is humble enough to submit to the will of Eru, even after his desire to create, his desire to manifest, created the dwarves, didn't give them true life, something that Melkor also wanted. He wanted to create his own beings to dominate and master. Aule wasn't really trying to dominate and master them, but he just wanted to make something. So again, there's a little bit of similarity there. However, he still submitted to Eru. He still gave over his creations and was even willing to destroy them because he felt that he had sinned against Eru's will and plans. Eru then, of course, would adopt these dwarves as his own, but There's a humility that Aule has that really Morgoth does not have himself. Now, we might even say what's interesting is Melkor did not have a mate. Many of the Valar, if not almost all of the Valar besides him, had some sort of mate, husband, or wife. But like Olmo, he did not. He did not have someone that was just like him or supportive of his actions, or there was no sort of Vala of this adjacent sort of evil that Melkor could have taken under his wing and had kind of as a second in command. There was nothing like that. So, in terms of similarities between Melkor and the other Valar, he is definitely the black sheep. He is the odd one out. And why is that? Why is it that Eru Ilúvatar, in the thoughts of his mind, created that Melkor to be the only one who really sought to create, dominate, destroy other beings, to declare the world his own? Why is it that he was so different? Now, I've had many thoughts and videos on Melkor's role in Arda, and how the Valar were reluctant to help the Free Peoples because of the character that it gave them, because of the oaths taken, because of the curses laid. All of that is certainly true, but let's take an even further look back. Why was any of that necessary? And yes, I'm talking more or less about the problem of evil, which I've addressed a bit in some past videos as well. A source that I found online, a post by My Name Is No One on Quora, which I have the article linked in the description below, actually sums it up very well, and I want to address their point, because this is really fascinating, and I don't know if I've addressed this directly in a video yet. So, the Valar might not have had free will, straight up. To be entirely honest, the issue of free will versus determinism in Arda and in Tolkien's works is a fascinating one, because I've often thought even that a lot of Morgoth's servants were vessels of Morgoth's malice, his evil, such as his dragons were almost like drones of his malice and, dark evil will. And that trolls were just this mutated version of Ents, or created from earthly materials to just not really be true creations. They didn't have the flame imperishable, that which gives true free will. But what I haven't really thought much about until now, did the Valar have the flame imperishable within them? Were they true life? Were they created in the same sort of way, even in the mind and thought of Eru, that the children of Ilúvatar were created? To be honest, I'm not so sure. We can look at the Valar in many different ways. We can, on one hand, look at them as free, autonomous beings that all just chose to be good. But honestly, the lore might not suggest that. Melkor was an agent of chaos and tyranny and destruction, and he was the most powerful of the Ainur. So in all of creation, he was second only to Eru himself. That was on purpose, right? It had to be, because Eru created the Ainur with the thoughts in his own mind, and with them sang into creation the rest of the world. Very similarly to how Eru would use the Valar, send them down into the world to shape it, and make it ready for his children, the children of Ilúvatar. Melkor, perhaps, in this analogy, was just the storm, the destructive tool that was needed to give real form, scars, wounds, and all, to the world, making it imperfect. It very much could be like adding one ingredient which could ruin something. It could. It's a risk. You have to add this ingredient, but honestly, it might make the dish what it's meant to be. Melkor was that ingredient. Give too much of it. Give him way too much power, and it'll ruin the whole thing. Don't give him enough power, and it won't really do enough, right? The other ingredients might overpower it. That's kind of how I see Melkor. If there might have been another like him, let's say Aule or Manwë joined him or something, it could so tip the scales way too far if Melkor and some other Valar who joined him were as powerful as Melkor was, or even close to that. Because the thing is, Melkor, even by himself, him versus all the other Valar, the Free Peoples, all of that, he still almost won. One more Vala goes to his side, that's it, right? Middle-earth could be entirely destroyed, or dominated, or the Free Peoples could be annihilated, which is clearly not what Eru wanted. Eru wanted there to be conflict in the world, to some degree. Conflict that would be overcome through free will, right? He wanted to give them the choice to join evil or to resist temptation and come out on top. Now again, What's interesting about this problem of evil is, like the quote read at the beginning, all of this comes from Eru himself. And I've made this argument many times in the past, that Melkor cannot do anything that is truly against Eru's plan, because he knows the will of all people. He knows everything. So anything Melkor tried to do was actually going to work in his favor. Eru created evil. Eru created Melkor and allowed him to be evil. Now, again, there is an argument to be made. Do the Valar have or have not free will? It's kind of easier in this sense to say, no, even if they had free will, it was at the least restrained free will. It was constrained because they needed to fulfill particular purposes in order to make the world what it was for the children. For the people of Middle-earth to rise up, they needed a villain such as Melkor, such as Sauron, such as Saruman. So, to summarize this, ultimately I would say that if another Vala had been created by Eru to join with Melkor or to make his own faction, that would have caused too much chaos in the world. The only way that might have worked is if Melkor had been weakened or the constraints on their free will had been changed in such a way to where the free people still had a shot at winning. But it probably just wasn't necessary. Melkor was so powerful that all of the other Valar could have their place in the lore and the tale of Middle-earth in its creation. And Melkor, his role was to be the antagonist. It just truly was, right? Within the music, within Eru's plan for the world. And really, even though there would be more antagonists that served Melkor perhaps along the way, Melkor himself would do just fine. And that's why we also don't have really any gray morality Valar, who are either neutral or passive. They don't care for the free peoples at all if they survive or if they die. No, all of the Valar are kind of encoded to want the will of Eru to survive and thrive, which was the creation and the dominion of elves, men, dwarves, hobbits, and for them to survive and thrive as much as they could in a world that did have marring, that did have the scars of Melkor. Another Vala, especially one that could have turned from its original purpose and joined Melkor and betrayed the Valar of the West, wasn't really needed. So going back to the original post, whether or not you want to make the argument that the Valar did have free will or not, I would at least say they were constrained, restrained, however you want to say that, in their free will, in the amount of agency they had, because they had roles. They were created in a different way than the free peoples were, and it's easy to forget that, but they were created by the thought of Eru. So they all had particular purposes and particular necessary roles in the creation and maintenance of Arda from its beginning all the way to its end. They were the custodians for Eru, the tools that helped shape and continue the world as it needed to be for the free peoples, Eru's actual priority, to be able to flourish and have this moment of free will. So there we are. Let me know, are you satisfied with that answer? Is there more that I may have missed or that Tolkien's other lore might suggest? From what I can tell, this is pretty much it. None of the other Valar were created, had personalities, or need to join Melkor, and if they had, it would have offset all of the scales of power in the world, and the free peoples just would not have won. The power would have had to be rebalanced, and so much world building from Eru and Tolkien's perspectives would have had to be simply changed. But again, let me know what you all think in the comments below. Why didn't more Valar join Morgoth or turn evil? What was the purpose of having Melkor and the entire issue of evil in the world? Let me know your thoughts. From this tale, we see that there is so much beyond our sight, and if we hold true to ourselves, what is meant to be will be. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Hit that like button if you did, and share this with a friend. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Should there have been more Valar to join Melkor's side? Would it have made the story more compelling, or would that have been overkill? Let me know what other videos you would also like to see me make. Your support keeps the channel going. And if you'd like to support us, please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles, who just came out with some new candles based on members of the Fellowship, or order some What Are United Cutlery, Lord of the Rings sword statues, and other replicas from Castle Kon, who does international shipping. I hear he's got a lot of stock, so please check it out, and use the code WEST at checkout, and please check out our merch. Join our memberships and Patreon for access to our Discord and our monthly podcast. Thanks to our Valor tier patrons, YouTube members, Ed Patterson, ComicNut64, Brian Hunley, Peter Shepard, John Hume, Reese Jenkins, Arthur Merlin, Theodore, Zoomi, Todesmorgen, and Joby Weasel. Thank you all so much. Please subscribe to join the Men of the West. And I'll see you all again next time, my friends. Thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.